Alright, should be recording. Can I see the file? Yay, I see the file. For chapter 5 of Search for Spock in this. I'm gonna try to be faster here than the previous one, but this chapter has a lot to it, and I'm just trying to think, how much did I like this chapter? I did like it. I think one thing a little annoying is there is some of it that is just setting up, hopefully just the next chapter. Um, we'll see, but yeah, I mean, by and large, I did like it, but there are some things where it's like, yeah. So it starts with the Grissom. So we got David and Savick. They have the orbit has come around again, so they can scan Sector 3, I think it was, where the coffin had landed. And now, while scanning it and like confirming it's there, confirming all that. Excuse me. Now Savick's picking up animal life, and it's like, what? And we do get one thing that I don't like it. I have a technical issue with it. I get what's going on, but I still would disapprove of it. So there's not supposed to be animal life there. That was not part of the programming, sort of. And David is trying to reach for reasons. He's grasping for explanations. And one of them is that Khan had the thing in his possession for a while and may have done stuff with it, and even like Khan surely had to be intelligent. He could surely have discovered how to turn on the programs the team had disabled for their first use of Genesis. I have a technical issue with this, because in Wrath of Khan, part of it was they were struggling to fit everything onto Space Lab's computer, right? The torpedo is going to be much smaller. There's no way if there's a disabled program, it's making on the torpedo. It wouldn't be there because that's going to be as the lean, just what it needs to do, what it's going to do, kind of stuff. So, yeah, I it could just be, it could be some retconning, which that's why I have a technical issue with it, because like that's not what should be happening here, or it is just more so he's grasping, he's grasping for stuff. Um, and it is like David continues down that path, so it is absolutely he is grasping. I just don't feel comfortable completely attributing him thinking about these other programs as like, you know, it's included there because he's just grasping. It's like it shouldn't be there. Um, but David had to wonder why it had taken a full orbit to find the first animal life form. He pushed away his worries. Animal life was decidedly not a symptom of the things David had most feared might go wrong. Um, so it's again kind of speaking to the whole we don't know what something's off with Genesis, and we don't know what yet. Because he's like, wait, this animal life form, there's all the ways I could have expected this to go wrong. That's not on the list. Where is it? Might be later. Nope, no, it is on here. One thought that did occur to him, because I think I had mentioned it in Wrath of Khan with the map for the Genesis cave. Vance had, for fun, put up at the top of it, dragons be here, or no, here be dragons, and the thought did occur to David. Maybe he snuck that in to the torpedoes programming, and Vance's dragons are there, which would make his mother happy. So it's like, okay, that I appreciate. That I'm good. See, and that also would have been a better reasoning than just like Vance slipping something in versus, oh yeah, there were programs there, and Khan just turned them on. It's like, it shouldn't have been there, in my opinion. It should be more cut down. Vance sneaking it in, that works though. Did I not highlight this? I did not. Okay. Damn it. So basically, it's just Savick is most concerned about the finding of the coffin because, on the one hand, she fully believes, and I agree with her, that the idea of firing it into the Genesis wave, the coffin into the Genesis wave, so that Spock would be disassembled and then integrated into the planet, she does believe, and I said I would agree with this, Spock would approve of that. However, that's not what happened, clearly. At least that's what she thinks. I'm okay with the idea that it did in fact get disassembled, but then reassembled on the planet. And not just that it landed safely. That isn't just the gravity distortion stuff that David thinks. Because that would also explain better how it's how you would have child Spock. That is, no, it was disassembled and reassembled. It's just at that stage of the wave moving, Genesis wouldn't be able to integrate into everything else. It would just recreate stuff there. So that I can see working as an explanation. But yeah, so she's all concerned about that. But it is also, she does recognize she disobeyed Kirk's order. I think Kirk, if he could set aside the hurt from Spock's body, wasn't disposed of correctly, and recognize that it wasn't her fault, I think he would forgive her. That he would be like, yes, you're right, Spock would have approved. But she's like, I'm going to take full responsibility for this once you figure out what happened. Because she does also want to know what happened. Oh yeah, one thing. There's no highlights connected to this. But both Savick and David at different times were thinking, man, I really wish we could go off in private and just talk about what's going on here, because we're both so excited. And it's like, because they don't want their relationship to be too public, I guess. But it's also Savick is trying to be in control of her emotions, and so it's like David wants to be off where he knows she'll be like, oh my god, this is so awesome, and she also wants to be able to go off and be like, oh my god, this is so awesome with him. So yeah, I found that a little funny. We then get something that's like, yes, we get Gwenny's point of view for a little bit. I just need to, and he is not in a good place. Definitely has very acute survivor's guilt, you might say. And the fact, okay, when Firenze, the ship that transported the majority of the cadets back to Earth, when it reached Earth, Starfleet gave all the trainees several weeks' leave if they had deliberately planned to torture Grenny, that they could not have chosen a better way. That's a reward for surviving. But his friend that he ran away from doesn't get. Grenny hates us so much. I mean, he is in pain. It's like, good. I don't say that as a good he's in pain, but a good. I want this in the story. I want to see how this develops. There's such good potential here. I want to see how he achieves redemption for himself, at least. I'm certain he will. Hopefully in a positive way. And it's just, I want to see this. I want to see this. But it gets even worse. Which, to be fair, he thinks people know. He's expecting to be court-martialed, right? I don't think anyone does know. I don't think there's a single person that knows. And I will add to that this. If Peter lived, I doubt he would have ever exposed Granny as having run away. Okay? I mean, if he were directly asked, maybe. But no one would directly ask him, most likely. And he, at most, would have talked to Granny. Granny more likely would have talked to him and Peter would just tell him not to worry about it. Just don't let that happen in the future. It's like, but yeah, it's like I want to see Granny's character development, so I'm really glad this is in here. But something more happens that makes it even worse for him, because he gets a small packet in the mail, and he's expecting this is a summons for a court-martial. Nope. Opens it up. By order of Admiral James T. Cook, he read, you were presented with the Gold Star of Valor jeweled. The Gold Star was for conspicuous bravery. The jewel signified an engagement in which lives had been lost. Humans received a ruby. It stood for blood. Grenny's hands started to shake. He blinked rapidly, forcing away tears. He barely made it through the rest of the message. It commanded him and the rest of his class to appear at Starfleet headquarters a few days from now for the formal presentation of the medal. I really want to see where this goes. And he does appear a little later in the chapter, at least I'm pretty sure it's him, because we do get to Scotland for Peter's home, where his mother is still there, and Danon, the older sister, is there as well. Like, she apparently came back. We'll get to that. There's a lot there that's actually really neat I want to talk about. But after the portion in the church, they go into the cemetery, and Danon sees a dark figure move, but when looking, there's nothing there. And it's like, why would anyone be hiding? Like, she doesn't know why somebody would be off there. It's like, if they're here for the funeral, they should just come down and be with friends. I'm pretty sure it's Granny. Not identified, but who else would it be? So then we get to the ship actually entering space dock, which is described as being quite large. Okay. The great enclosed docking bay allowed people to work outside the ship, yet it protected them from the free radiation of space. I got a small problem with that, because unless there's atmosphere, including heating and potentially, well, some form of artificial gravity. Let's be real, you'd want it to be gravity emanating from the ship, so that way you can be upside down. Yeah, not exactly upside down, but you know what I mean. It's like, okay, well, that's things that you might need from a spacesuit, which would also give protection from radiation. So what's the point of the thing? What's the point of having it enclosed? I don't... Unless it's not saying here that there is atmosphere. It's not saying here that they have a mechanism to keep an atmosphere in there, like an airlock system. It's just a big door. Technically, well, actually, no, I'm not sure when it is. I know in TNG they do have it, where at the shuttle bay, shuttles come in and they actually penetrate through the shields that keep the atmosphere inside, so that it just crosses. But no description of that here. So it's like you're not really the radiation protection is not really that important. It does mention that it's door 15. So in theory, there's... Well, okay. 15 means one of two things. Either that there's at least 15 doors, or it's at angle 150. Okay? I could believe that. That it is just... I don't think it would be at angle 15. I think 150, which would be about there, would make the most sense. And just, all the way around. That would make sense. It's also just one of those things, because if you think about space dock, what is depicted in the movies is massive. If it had powerful weapons on there, it's like, okay, I understand it being a place to harbor these ships, that then if Earth is attacked, space dock can start firing, but it can also, through some of these doors, get ships out that then you go out and can engage. But just this description does not mean it's. I don't see the value to it. But also mentions that as the Enterprise comes in, it passed ships under construction, ships under repair, ships in storage, and decommissioned ships only awaiting to be dismantled. That it already looks big in the movies. Apparently that's tiny compared to what's being described here. Because at minimum, I mean, it's... Okay, past ships, plural. Well, under construction. Ships under repair, ships in storage, and decommissioned ships only waiting to be dismantled. So that means, at minimum, it supports 9 in there. 2 each, so you satisfy the plural. So that's 8, and then the Enterprise coming in for 9. At minimum, 9 ships in there. That's big! I feel like in the movie, it feels more like there would be 4 or 5. Like, potentially half that number. So it's big. Now, to be fair, though, it always does seem like in the movie they're on the same level, and you could have multiple levels, but still, it's huge. We do get some more information about Excelsior, which makes sense because this is when we actually get to see it. But there is one aspect here that is rather interesting. I am curious how it's going to work out. I'm not looking forward to it in the same way I am for Granny's thing. It's just I'm very curious about this. My friends, Kirk said, the great experiment, Excelsior, ready for trial runs. Kirk glanced at Sulu, approving of his restraint. Excelsior was Sulu's next assignment, his first command. In many respects, Sulu was Kirk's protege. The Admiral was proud of the young commander. Kirk searched his heart for envy and found none. Excelsior belonged to Sulu. Kirk's ship was the Enterprise, and he wanted none other. It has trans-warp drive, Sulu said matter-of-factly. He's bragging a little bit there, but we do then get the, if my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a wagon response from Scotty. But it's like, I'm actually confused. It's like, wait, why is Sulu getting promoted to captain? He's never been a first officer. This seems a little odd that he's just skipping up above, but okay. We also get the, come on, Scotty, young minds, fresh ideas, be tolerant, which that is in the movie. Sulu smiled to himself, refusing to be baited by the conversation. Behind his calm facade, he glowed with pride. Excelsior was his ship. The ship he had worked so hard and waited so long to command. He knew its lines by heart. He had considerable say in its design. He was so proud of the ship that even Mr. Scott's criticisms could not get very far under his skin. Also, one thing just occurred to me. We have a contradiction a little later. But that's it's interesting because, like, wait, Sulu was that involved, and it does say that he only came on the training mission as a favor to Kirk because he wasn't needed just yet. They were expecting to be back days prior, and that then he would assume command of the Excelsior, assumingly also he would assume the rank of captain, and not just be commander, but captain of the Excelsior, but no, Captain Sulu. So, yeah, but one thing just occurred to me, okay. Yeah, that's actually, what just occurred to me, and I had to put this in my notes, might be a contradiction born of the fact that that Vonda is having to follow the movie. So I'll get to that. Okay, it will be in a little bit because it's still a little bit more before we get to that, including that as they're docking, the alarms start going off at Chekhov's station about somebody entering Spock's quarters. But we do get an interesting explanation here. Spock had always refused to lock his cabin or even to go through the security procedures with the computer that would permit it to be locked if he chose. Vulcans never used locks. It was a matter of principle with Spock. Because of the damage to the electronic systems of the Enterprise, Chekhov had not been able to initiate the procedures himself when Kirk ordered the cabin closed off. Instead, Chekhov secured the door mechanically, that is, with an alarm, with sensors, and with a lead seal and stamp from the ship's archives. Somebody had still broken in. So I guess that's explaining how it could have been broken into. Because it's also the idea that Vulcans wouldn't believe in locks. That seems illogical. Because, I mean, you still have reason to keep persons out of areas that they do not belong in. I'm just trying to think of how to put it that doesn't sound too stupid. But I mean, yeah, there are going to be places, like even Vulcan children, you need to be able to keep them from going into certain places, so you'd certainly have locks on doors in a house, maybe, and as far as locks on the outside, it's still Vulcan. Why can't a Vulcan go crazy? And also, what about other people being on your planet? I mean, a spaceship like Enterprise should be pretty damn safe, but what if you have a visitor to Vulcan that does end up becoming a thief or something? I mean, it seems illogical that they would be against locks as a matter of principle. So, yeah. Then we get, because Kirk is pissed that anyone would be in Spock's quarters. It's like, crap, where is it even? Kirk would soon be giving someone a lesson in the uses of black humor. And he is pissed. Gets there, and the lights are down, and he hears, "Jim, help me." Kirk gasped. The voice was Spock's. "Take me up the steps of Mount Seleia, through the halls of ancient thought." Kirk clenched his fist. His hands were shaking with anger and shock. He peered more deeply into the shadow and saw the indistinct form plunged toward him out of the darkness. Knocking him aside, Kirk grabbed it and wrestled with it. Its strength was enormous. There was actually mention of this earlier as well, with the tearing the door open. Somehow he got a judo hold on his opponent and wrenched him down into submission. They both fell to the floor and into the lights of the corridor. McCoy struggled against him. This moment is similar, but clearly different from the movie. There's more action here than in the movie, which makes sense. You don't want those two actors to have to fight. And also, you can just let the sight, especially it's early in the movie too, you can just let the sight carry a lot, whereas in this, we do get more talking. Yeah, well, I think it might be a little bit more, but like we're just spending a little bit more time on Bones' condition here. Okay. So moving on from that, oh yeah, that's right. The strength thing. I put a note in here because that is. So Vulcans are supposed to be 3 times stronger than humans. Okay, but why would McCoy be stronger? Well, there is kind of an explanation. In that part of what limits human strength is also pain. That our body does react to protect our muscles from tearing. Which, I mean, yes, also building up muscle, you're intentionally doing things that will tear the fibers. And that's fine, because the body then heals. It's not like, oh, pain is on, don't do that. Spock's personality being present here could be suppressing, because Spock would have had the ability to suppress his own pain that might be happening with Bones, which would allow him to exert far greater force than normal. Which would mean then that when we next visit McCoy and learn more, assuming Chapel has examined him, there can be a reference to overstrained muscles, because that is reasonably what would happen to him, because the pain was turned off. Okay. And by the way, this would be different from like just adrenaline, because adrenaline also, or epinephrine, whichever the chemical's now called, that also triggers the additional flow of oxygen and nutrients to the muscles, as I recall, so it does in fact enhance strength. But I believe there is also a numbing effect that goes with it. Which does remind me, I actually once knew a guy. He was funny. I was in a philosophy class, and this topic came up, and he was sitting right there. There is actually something that can happen where your body attacks your own nervous system, and the nerves then have to grow back. But for a time, that means you have no pain sensing anymore, which would also mean no sense of touch. And it was interesting, him talking about that some, because I was like, here's a newspaper clipping class that we're going to talk about where this happened to a woman. He's like, yeah, that happened to me. It's like, really? Yeah, it was interesting. Because he talked about how because he couldn't feel any pain, he could just sit there and like punch at a wall until he's beaten away the flesh and is down to the bone of his fist and could still keep going because there's no pain. He would see the damage, but aside from seeing it, he would have or potentially smell it, he'd have no awareness of it. Yeah. It's kind of freaky. He also did mention one other thing that was kind of funny. He needed to have a special license with him at all times. Well, certainly when driving, because nerves growing back, very painful, such that he basically had a drug counter with him for with pain meds, and to such a degree, and these were prescribed to him. He was supposed to have them, and that's why he needed the license, because if he was ever pulled over and a cop saw that, that is a go directly to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect 300. Do not collect 200. Why was I going to say 300? Do not collect $200 kind of thing for how much he would have had and for how hard of narcotics they would have been. Okay, I'm pretty sure that's narcotics, maybe just opiates, but yeah, how hard of drugs those are, he would have gone directly to jail kind of thing without this license saying, no, he has a very legitimate and legal reason to have these. Yeah. That was over 15 years ago. So then we're to the fleet commander of Starfleet has come aboard the ship now to talk with them, to welcome them home and all that. He's a little bit of an asshole, as you know from the movie, but we get to more reasons to dislike him. But one here, he embraced Kirk. The sincere affection between them was of long standing. Moreau had been Kirk's first commanding officer. He had sponsored him for his captaincy, and again for his promotion to the general staff. Well, okay, I guess maybe my note is wrong, because promotion to general staff could be different from promotion to admiral. Because it could be, you're an admiral, hey, I think you should be on the general staff. Okay, I could see that. But if it was sponsored his promotion to admiral, that might be a, dude, I read the motion picture, you're an asshole. You should not have done that to him. You were in a horrible conspiracy. And also, I'm just, not that people watch these, but I am just curious how common that, because this seems like something that just happens in fiction, where it's like, my old captain is now an admiral and in charge of, it's like, how much does that actually happen? Because I would think that doesn't happen a lot. I was like, there's only so many positions of general and admiral in the U.S. military, because there's certain things that those roles fulfill, and once those are fulfilled, you don't have need for more. And I think the number is like 60 something for the number of generals, or maybe that's just for the army, but it still is. It's like these are not just like, hey, you get a raise at work kind of thing. It's a no, you have to prove yourself worthy, such that it would not be unreasonable. Well, I mean, here, take Scotty. He's a commander. I'm not sure if he ever attains the rank of captain. He certainly never chooses to become a ship captain, though, because that's not what he wants to be. So it would be, in fact, quite reasonable if it was Scotty was lieutenant commander on the ship that Kirk was on when an ensign, and Kirk has just gone up and is now Scotty's CO. It's like, yeah, that I would think is way more common. Where it is just, that's where they are. They stay there because, you know what, that's where they're happy, that's where they're good. But you have the skill that you end up going past them. And you know what? They're happy about that because, like, I'm where I'm supposed to be. You have gone to where you're supposed to be. Doesn't matter that you're above me, you're where you're supposed to be. It's like, I would think it's far more that than this. And it's also, it should be a pyramid in that there's fewer and fewer as you go up into higher ranks. So the idea that your old CO and you have both managed to climb up it, that just seems less and less likely. Because it's getting so narrow. But anyway, that's just a me being like, I'm not sure if this is right. Yeah. Actually, wait. Okay. So this is also when we get... You're gonna... Oh, no, he didn't fight me. So, yeah. So he's there to tell them all about how, yep, you can have some leave time. It's going to be good. This guy's like, with all due respect, I'll be staying here. And, hang on. Well, yeah, they all get shore leave. Everyone but you, Mr. Scott. Because we need your wisdom on the new Excelsior. There's some issues here. That's why I had to write in there, so we'll get to that. And he's like, thanks, but I'd like to stay with the Enterprise and oversee the refit. Yeah, that's not happening. Moreau has... Well, it has been decided that the Enterprise shall not be refit. And has even said to Scotty, look, if you want, I can cut you new orders to stay with the Enterprise. But it is to see it dismantled, okay, not repaired. You never... You're not even done an inspection. I still hate that they're writing in the accent here. You cannot just look at a ship. I'm translating for you. You cannot just look at a ship and condemn it to the scrap heap. All you need to do is give me the material I requisitioned. Your requisitions have been through a thorough analysis. We gave the ship every point we could. I made sure of that. But it simply isn't cost-effective to bring it back to optimum. Cost-effective, Scott muttered angrily. Optimum? What do you... Scotty, said Kirk gently. Scott opened his mouth, saw the look on Kirk's face, closed his mouth, and resentfully subsided. Scotty, going over to Excelsior for the time being. No, Scott said. Do you not understand? It isn't possible. Indeed, the frost in Moreau's single word lowered the temperature 10 degrees. He was not used to having his orders questioned, much less directly refused. My nephew Peter is still on board the Enterprise, Scott said. His body is. I must take him home to my sister, to his grave. It's like, come to the Excelsior in a few days. It's like, it's like, Moreau is, you're right. You're staying here for now. You're taking care of that. Yeah. And we do get Kirk mentioning the whole, I'd hope to take Enterprise back to Genesis, and it's like, why? Natural desire to help finish the work we began. Out of the question. No one is going to Genesis. So it's the whole, look, none of you can talk about it, consider it quarantine, okay? That's level. That can't have that. But then we get something that is unique to the book, which is Sulu. Because he's like, awesome, I'm back. I can get on board the Excelsior, I can get on board my ship. Gonna be awesome. And Moreau's like, because Sulu's like, turning around to go back to like collect his things up, and just to beam directly from Enterprise over to Excelsior. He figures that's what I'm doing. Moreau's like, could you hold on a minute and let's walk. He beamed down to Earth, going to his office, and Sulu's already figured out this isn't good. And it gets explained. And hang on, I just want to check that I need to check where the one highlight is. But Sulu figures out that they're not giving me the Excelsior. That is my ship. They're not giving it to me. And the reason is because we need all of you available for the inquiry. Can't have you off on a shakedown cruise on this ship. We need you to be able to come in whenever. That's technically BS, but I'll come back to that. The thing that I put in the notes, isn't it odd that, Scotty, we want to assign you as Captain of Engineering on that ship. Hey, Sulu, guess what? We can't have you on that ship. But also the mention of the whole, yeah, we've already given Captain Styles, yes, command of the ship. And Sulu's like, there's no way somebody's going to be given a command of that ship, technically any ship, but command of that ship, and then relinquish it when this stuff is done. They've just taken my ship away from me. No ship existed. No ship was ever planned that came close to Excelsior. Sulu feared that once he lost it forever. Being told that something could make up for that was so outrageous, so absurd, that Sulu nearly burst out laughing. I will find that reward quite fascinating to contemplate, Sulu said bitterly. If the Admiral will pardon me, I have absolutely nothing to do. Moreau frowned at him, not knowing how to interpret what Sulu said. I can tell you exactly how to interpret. And then Sulu just turns and leaves. Doesn't wait to be dismissed. He's just out of there, and it's like, Moreau, this is how you interpret it. You done fucked up. Right? I mean, I guess the way to put it is it does read a lot like the dude is just straight up a politician that has no understanding of people. Which is disappointing, but I mean, to be fair, at that level, admirals and generals, I can believe, have to be political to some degree, and to some degree, emphasis on that, because I'm sure that even that there's a great many generals, great many admirals in real life, who they're amazing commanders, but are also, yes, they know how to navigate the political stuff. But and there is a certain nature of the beast that is kind of political, not in political government, but just the kind of decision making that falls under politics. So, but still, this guy is just dumb, stupid. It's like because this is okay. I could believe that this is enough that plenty of people, Sulu included, would be like, you know what? Why am I in Starfleet? I mean, that is so morale shattering that no, I would definitely believe a large number of people would be like, you know what? Maybe it's time I retire. I made it a good distance. Why not? Why not? I was promised this. I built this thing. This is my ship, and it's been taken away from me. Not because, hey, there's an emergency like what happened with Decker. No, it's not that. It's because they just want me to be able to be free to answer questions. That's going to take at most months. But I've lost my command that should be years long. And I'm to the ship I helped design. Somebody else is sitting in my seat. I'm never going to get back, and they're going to make it up to me. They are not making up to me. They have betrayed me. That is exactly what he's going through. Yeah. Yep. So yeah, I am curious to see how that goes. But I could believe that even with that contemplation, when Kirk says, I need your help, because they have to get Spock's body, and they have to then get it and bones to Vulcan, I could definitely believe that Sulu's like, Kirk, let's go. That's like, it doesn't matter. Kirk is his commander, is his friend. Starfleet can betray me. Kirk didn't. Whatever it is, he would go help Kirk. All right. So now we get to a decently long section that I'm good with. It being this long with Danon, who is Peter's older sister, the one who he very much looked up to, very much adored and admired. She has made it back to Earth for the funeral, and she is waking up in the house, and it has quite some period there, but at one point she looks out the window and whistles because apparently Peter had a pony called Star because of the blaze on his head, apparently. A 5-pointed marking of white on his forehead that's nose ablaze, by the way. Which, by the way, just a little bit of entomology. Blazing a trail, the term for that comes from because as you'd go through leaving a trail behind, you would take an axe or something and actually cut a little mark on a tree, but it resembled a blaze on a horse's head, so it's trail blazing because you were putting that down. That's how people would follow the trail. Anyway, yeah, we got the line here. Poor old boy, Danon said, "You're lucky. You never have to understand that he isn't coming back. Maybe you'll even forget him." And so this is like, the pony that Peter had for a long time. Now it is old, has arthritis and such, so not really getting around that well, but the moment Peter would be home and whistle, it would come charging out, right? So yeah, Danon seems to be, at this point, handling it all right, which makes sense, because this is probably 1-2 days after after being notified, maybe 3. Not too long, but it's like, if she was going to like cry, I could guess from her character it would have been in private. But if she was going to cry, that's already passed. But their mother, however, her reaction is a little different. She'd spent all day and most of the night in the studio, a clay working ceramic studio, which does have a kiln, but when she does anything meant to be like sold or something, not just used around the house, then she goes into town. Well, goes to where the co-op is because they have a special kiln there. But anyway, Dannon had left her alone. It was her mother's way, in bad times, to close herself off with work. Dannon would have liked to talk about what had happened and about Peter, but she knew her mother would not be able to do that for some while yet. And there's a lot here that I do like. And just as a reminder, this would be Scotty's sister, that is Dannon's mother and Peter's mother. Oh yeah, that's right. I also do have that because Scotty beams down just outside the door, and there's actually beaming in, besides being too expensive to use very often for a personal business, was terribly abrupt. She liked being able to take a car, train or ground car to home, and just that's two references in this chapter to money. Beaming is expensive, and also the cost of repairing the Enterprise. Which it also occurred to me, it doesn't make sense that you would not repair the Enterprise, both for just the whole, it's kind of a historic ship, but also Genesis has provoked the galaxy to be very upset with the Federation. Because, like, holy shit, you have this weapon now? We gotta talk about decommissioning a somewhat still operational ship, heavily damaged, but still functioning. What is wrong with you? You would absolutely be getting that repaired as quickly as possible, because you might need another ship. Okay, it doesn't matter that it's old. It's like, 20 years old. Well, you also had just upgraded it into the refit, 7 years ago at this point, so it's not that old. But anyway, so Scotty had been down out there, and you do get some sense of why these two, Dannon and Scotty, don't necessarily get along that well. I suspect we will, or at least I hope we will, get some sort of reconciliation between them later. Because my read of it is more so Scotty recognizes her potential and is annoyed by how. Well, two things. One, he would be annoyed by how she seems to be wasting it by being a troublemaker. But I can also see it being he's intentionally hard on her, and maybe has just made it too much a habit with her now. But that I could believe he's intentionally hard on her because he knows there are some people that you get the best out of them by keeping them in a fire, right? By keeping the pressure on, that's how you get them to achieve their potential. Some people like that. Other people aren't. No, you can just give them the tools, you give them what support they need, but you just let them go and they'll achieve their potential. It's like there's different people. I can believe that Scotty could just be seeing that with her, but he can't say the right thing, either because he's making mistakes or he's in the habit, he knows he needs to be hard on her because that will get the most out of her. But it is not easy between them. Because he asks for tea, and she's also not great with him. Because he's like, "Is there no tea?" She'd fix some coffee. You know where it is as well as I do. I'm in no mood for thine impertinence, young lady. It's like, I mean, that is kind of rude. I mean, come on, Dannon. We're not on Starfleet ground now, she said. She resisted pointing out that even when they were on Starfleet ground, she was only one grade in rank beneath him, and thus rated being treated as a colleague rather than as a subordinate. We're both guests in Mother's house, and I think we should call a truce. It does not last too well, and yeah, she does. She's the one who kind of breaks it, but it's slightly mutual. But yeah, I highlighted that mainly because confirmation that she is a commander. I think it would be lieutenant commander, that Scotty is full commander. So that would be. I'm just trying to remember how that maps out to other places, because captain is equal to colonel, so full commander is major. So captain in some of the other branches would be lieutenant commander. And then there's lieutenant that goes to lieutenant. No, No, it's lieutenant to ensign, but there's also lieutenant in... Crap, I'm trying to remember. What am I missing? I cannot remember what I'm missing. Oh, wait, that's right. There's also lieutenant colonel. Damn it. So yeah, it's colonel, lieutenant colonel. Okay, so it would be colonel is captain. Lieutenant colonel is commander. Major is lieutenant commander. Captain is lieutenant. Lieutenant is ensign. Okay. Whew. Anyhow, and by the way, for anyone wondering, wait, she's his niece. Why would she be so close in rank to him? People would be promoted differently, and also Scotty's where he wants to be. Yeah, he would. It's possible that he has been at the rank of commander as long as she has been in Starfleet, and he doesn't want to go above that. So, yeah. Yeah, so they're not really getting along the best. Then a message comes in, which surprises her because no one but Hunter, her commanding officer, knew where she had gone, and it was addressed to her. So she goes and turns it on. Please forgive me for intruding upon your privacy, the young Vulcan said. My name is Savick. I cannot convey my message in person as I am unable to accompany the Enterprise to Earth. I knew your brother, Peter Preston. He spoke of you often with admiration and with love. He was my student in mathematics. He was quick and diligent and found great satisfaction in the beauty of the subject. The image of Savick hesitated. Though I was the teacher, he taught me many things. The most important lesson was that of friendship, which I had never experienced before I met your brother. I may discover other friends, but I will cherish the memory of Peter always. I would not have been able to speak of these feelings had I never met him. That is one of the things he taught me. He was a sweet child, a wholly admirable person, and he saved many lives with his sacrifice. This is perhaps as little comfort to you as it is to me, but it is true. Savick paused, collecting herself, Dan in thought, fighting to keep her emotions hidden as her culture demanded. I hope that someday we may meet and speak of him to each other. Farewell. I do find it a little interesting that after this, she returns to the kitchen where Scotty is. What was that? Just a message. It just seems odd, no mention of, do you know Savick? Nothing like that. You know, just seems a little odd that odd in that it's appropriate. I'm not saying her not mentioning it to Scotty. It's a message. That's also completely appropriate. Her keeping it that private. But there is an element of, because Savick would appear Vulcan. We know she's Vulcan Romulan, and so it does have emotions there, but the fact that a Vulcan would choose to do that should be of significance, such that this would be Danon should want to show that to their mother, because it would be a great sign of respect. But then she needs to go off and be disrespectful. We'll get to that. That is the next thing. I also do want to mention, because it was around here, Dan removed the message disc and slid it into her clothing. It just is described as her silk, and apparently it's just like her not exactly bathrobe, but it's like, she got up, put that on. You got up from bed in the morning, put that on, and so you sort of like, I assume somebody putting a bathrobe on over their pajamas. And I do like that. Apparently, yes, they are sending messages, and there is even a mention at one point of Peter had written and sent a message to her, and was even mentioning in that how I'm not sure where it is. Oh yeah, the last line in his letter was, Lieutenant Savick says we are friends. I'm glad I think you would like her. Love, Peter. It ought to also mention that the joke he pulled on Kirk there. And I do like that. Apparently these messages, they are having to be sent via some slower system, maybe actual delivery, and it's like, I like that because it's kind of what I put in a letter from Catherine. The whole, yes, we still use letters in this far future because transmitting that data can be done, but it's expensive. Whereas writing a letter, putting it on a ship that regularly makes a route back and forth, is so much more economical. Because, like, I mean, yeah, I can be there in a week, and I don't need to reply for a week. It's that no problem. Um, so they do. She and Scotty start arguing, um, about why this happened. Um, and she wants to know what happened. He's like, I can't tell you, Genesis stuff. And even she's like, everybody knows about Genesis. It's like, okay, woman, you shouldn't be that stupid. You know Genesis happened. You don't know why it happened. You know very little about the rest of it. Okay? So I could believe that it's more so Khan they want kept secret than Genesis. Because, aspects of Genesis, yes, they would want to keep that secret. But Khan, I could believe, and the idea that somebody managed to steal one of our starships, we ain't talking about that ever. Anyway, but she starts actually going at Scotty a little bit. What was he doing on the Enterprise anyway? Why was he under your command? Because you wouldn't take him under yours. Wouldn't have been proper for either of us to train him. Who says it wouldn't be proper? I'll not be accused of favoritism. And she's like, favoritism? You probably demanded 3 times as much from him as anyone else. And then I mentioned that Scotty arranged to teach him because he wanted to make sure he was taught well. And one thing I do find funny is Danon having the line about he probably made him do 3 times the work of everyone else, which is repeating from, I think it was Peter's thoughts, not necessarily saying it aloud, when he and Scotty were going at it a little bit in Wrath of Khan. But to this highlight. Is that why you won't tell me what happened? Did you push him beyond his abilities? Did you put him where he shouldn't have been? Dan was saying. I'm going to try to translate. None of the children should have been where they were, he said so sadly that Danon felt a twinge of pity through her grief. They were all pushed beyond their abilities. By Admiral James Kirk, Danon said bitterly, softly. Admiral Kirk, who, I will not tolerate slander. I'm not saying anything everybody else has been saying for days, Dan said. The last 2 times he got his hands on the Enterprise, the captain died. First Decker, now Spock. If I had command of a ship, I wouldn't let him within a light year of it. You don't know anything about those situations, and you'll never get within a light year of command if any friend of the Admiral hears you speaking like that. Yeah, okay. Okay. So, the next highlight that I have, I had already mentioned. Granny has come and is watching the funeral. But that is interesting. This view, people disliking Kirk, even to an insulting level, as though it's like, oh, he's arranging for the captains of the Enterprise to die every time he comes into command. Because it's one of those things. I almost want to be like, Danon. Maybe they died because they weren't up to the task that Kirk was. And it's like the whole, he might be surviving because he's actually that good, and they're not surviving because they're not. I mean, obviously, that's not the case. It's like both Decker and Spock chose their ends. Or at least made decisions that directly led to those ends. So but it's still, there is that element of, you have no idea what you're talking about. And kind of, sort of, this situation is evidence about his skill. Not evidence of anything else. Or it doesn't have to be. So, yeah. But it's... Yeah. Those two do not get along. So, I do hope that there will be some reconciliation there. And in fact, what I can believe will end up happening is it's Grenny that will get to her and talk with her. And Grenny tells her what happens. And she has to be the one that ultimately helps him find his redemption. I could believe that. Maybe that would also see her then reconciling with Scotty. I'm not sure about that. Because, I mean, Scotty's probably not, is probably also feeling like it's his fault. It isn't. But still. Alright, so now we get to the final portion of the chapter, which is on the Klingon bird of prey. There is something interesting here, and I just want to... Oh, but also just the whole, many people are talking about it, potentially. Talking about Kirk in a negative way. So how is that going to feed into some of what it's going to be coming? Okay. To fully understand the events of which I report, James T. Kirk said, it is necessary to review the theoretical data on the Genesis device. So this is Krug playing the tape that he gotten from Vulcus for Maltz and Torg, who are two of his subordinates. Now, what's interesting is, so we do have Kirk doing it, but it is with the context here of he's like reporting on what happened with the Genesis torpedo. Because I always in the movie, it always seemed like it was just the same summary of the project that we'd seen in Wrath of Khan, but now it's Shatner instead of the actress who played Carol. Forgive me, I don't remember her name. Which also reminds me, there was a reference earlier for part of the reason why Kirk wanted to take the Enterprise back to Genesis was surely Dr. Marcus, Carol, wants to get there. I figured we would take her. But it's like she has just disappeared. But anyway, I always figured they had Shatner redo that, so that way they didn't need to credit her. I was like, that's one of the silly things is that even though it's like, yeah, we have the film of you, we could just reuse it. It's like, nope, that would be another check to her. Yeah, I guess we'll just have Shatner do it. I mean, it also just makes some things easier. But what is funny though, so it's like Kirk is narrating this different tape, but then later, the human narrating the tape thanked her listeners. That could be a typo, or it could be, and I don't recall there being something in here indicating a change of narrator, but it could be that that's all that happened. But yeah, and it is just. So now they know about... Oh, this is also interesting because it implies in that this is the report that Kirk would have sent after they'd escaped the Genesis wave and after Spock's death. So how the hell did Vulcus get this? Because this would have been a secured message and it would have just been beamed once from Enterprise to Starfleet and then analyzed where did she get it? It's not like this was lingering somewhere. Like, if she had gotten the project summary that's like a year old, that's one thing. That might be floating around and isn't being monitored as closely. But this should be monitored closely. So yeah, hopefully we get some answer there. Probably won't. And to be fair, it is one of those things you don't necessarily need an answer. I just want it, but it doesn't need to be provided. And it sucks. Because I want to know, but yeah. But one other thing that I do have highlighted here, cloaking device engaged. From within the ship, it was a most odd and satisfying sensation. The ship and all its contents and all its occupants became slightly transparent. Voices grew hollow like echoes. Huh? So, part of what I find that interesting is that's never how cloaking has been shown before, and it's never been shown that way after. So, like, there's never been the indication of any effect inside the ship. So, will be interesting to see when we get to Voyage Home specifically if it survives there, if this description's there as well, because that will also be by Vonda. Now, we may also see something. I mean, there's a bird of prey that cloaks in Final Frontier. I don't know how much on board we'll be carrying about there. And also Undeserved Country. That we will probably have time spent on board the bird of prey that cloaks. So, we'll see. But I could also believe that this was Vonda envisioned it this way, wrote it in this way. But it is never used again, including in Voyage Home, where it's like, yeah, no, we can't do that in special effects, and it just seems a weird thing that you're describing here, so might be best to just drop that. Just, it's like, kind of like how the way warp was described in the motion picture novelization makes no sense and is inconsistent with what was in the original series as well. So it's like, where is this coming from? And then once we get to Wrath of Khan and Warp there, Warp isn't described that way anymore. I could see it being something like that, where it's like, yeah, it's a neat idea, but nah, it doesn't really make sense. And there were times we were on. There was no indication in Balance of Terror that the Romulans went through this. Could be different technology, that's fair. And also then in the Enterprise incident, again, new technology, new cloaking device, still Romulan. When the Enterprise uses that to cloak, though, no indication of anything like this there. So it is... yeah. I'm... It is interesting, but it's one of those... Yeah, probably best to not do that. Like, instead describe some sort of odd tingling sensation from it because of how the technology works, rather than, oh yeah, we all become transparent inside it as well, at least somewhat transparent. It's like, yeah, there's consequences from that one going forward, and technically there should be consequences going back. That none of those consequences have been shown. Maybe don't do that. Alright, I don't think of anything more. Let me just quickly look at one thing. Okay, so it starts with Saavik and David beaming down to Genesis. So for that portion of the story, it does seem like the pieces are on the board and are going to start moving. For the stealing of the Enterprise and and Bones getting with Spock's body to Mount Seleia and all that, those pieces are still being put on the board. So, although maybe that will they will finish being put on the board with this next chapter, we'll find out. But it is things are going to start getting more interesting because they beam down and Grissom should be destroyed before too long by Krug and his crew. So, yeah. All right. See you next time.